One of the last videos I made in 2020 was about a small visual novel project called Mice-T. While that video has garnered a decent amount of attention, I feel like it could have been done way better. Which is why I'm going to take another look at this humble little story about a woman and her transformation-inducing tea that comes with a side of horny. So, what is Mice-T? Mice-T is a visual novel project by a small team known as Cinnamon Switch. The game follows Margaret DeCampos, a young woman who comes across a mysterious box of tea that gives anyone who drinks it attributes of different animals based on a number of different factors. It can even change the subject's gender under certain conditions. The transformation shenanigans don't just end with Margaret though, as various people in her life are also dragged into the action, with each character experiencing the tea's effects in different ways, as well as potentially becoming a romantic interest. There are 4 romances available to choose from. Going over each one, let's start with Felicia. Felicia, who starts off as Margaret's boss and owner of the local bookstore, gets hit with a side effect of the tea and transforms into a petite woman with cat-like features. From there, the pair goes off to investigate the cause of the change, which eventually leads into some handsy business. Most of Felicia's path focuses on her coming to terms with their new feminine form and features a lot of vanilla romantic scenarios, with a little TG for added spice here and there. Next up is Julie, Margaret's roommate from college and general freeloader. Julie's story covers the pair's exploits with a few late-night robberies as they aim to use their newfound animal forms to help them gather evidence of an art theft ring, and show off their asses on CCTV in the process. Julie's path runs the gambit with voyeurism and some bondage play. Nothing too hardcore, but you're still gonna see someone trussed up like a holiday ham by the end of it. Then we have the lovely Sylvia, Margaret's co-worker. At first, the game sets her up as more of an antagonist due to her habit of taking sick days off from work to go shopping, or generally not caring too much about her job or empathizing with others. After playing her path though, you do get some insight into why she acts the way she does. She's not a bad person, she's just kinda dumb, or at least oblivious to how her actions come off towards other people. Her path turns her into a sexy Lady Lamia, and features mostly hypnosis and some split personality stuff. This is where I really have to show some praise, because the hypnosis here is more along the lines of hypnotic suggestion, rather than something like swirly eyes leading into someone believing that they're a chicken or something. And all of that is due to Zoe S. Figueroa, the game's writer. She does a spectacular job with the process of getting someone to their hypnotized state. Everything from meditation leading up to it, to how each character is programmed. It's more along the lines of a psych session. It's not nearly as creepy as its contemporaries. And lastly, there's the path involving the owner of the local tea shop, Gavin. If you decide at the beginning of the story to have Margaret overload on the tea, then the effects will be so intense that they'll cause her to shrink down to the size of that of a normal mouse. She can still talk and think like a normal person, but she's just smaller and fuzzier. Her and Gavin try to uncover how the tea actually works, and along the way they slowly become romantically involved. Now of course you wouldn't be able to do much of anything fun at this size, or could you? There's a good deal of femdom here, but the reasoning is pretty interesting, because it acts as a way of Margaret trying to keep her sense of equal ground with her lover despite her smaller size. It's kind of sweet in a way. And that's one of Mice-T's strongest traits, the focus on wholesome intimacy over balls-to-the-wall, high-impact action. Even the TF is handled in a way that newcomers can easily acclimate to. Both of those aspects are done well thanks to the aforementioned writing, as well as CG artist Ultra Bondage Fairy's excellent CGs that aim to achieve more than the bog-standard poses and scene framing of many other Arrow VNs. I can't show anything here for obvious reasons, but for those brave enough to play without the game's adult content filter, you're in for a real treat. Although said filter isn't perfect. Nude sprites and the CG here or there are still shown, so I wouldn't suggest you go and stream this on anywhere with a strong TOS. But even if you don't get a chance to see a whole lot of sexy stuff, you'll still be able to see some lovely sprite work and transformation panels done by artist K Dynamo. Mice-T certainly doesn't slouch on sprite variety, that's for sure. Although, all that wholesomeness comes at a price. One of the biggest things I can say against Mice-T is its lack of any actual conflict or drama. Stuff like how Felicia mismanaged the bookstore before her transformation, or Sylvia's lack of empathy, or brains, are small footnotes that seem to be just washed over or fixed within the same chapter they're introduced. That's not to say that the stories are boring, just don't go in expecting characters to evolve or change that much. There are some neat things going on in Gavin's path, and Julie has a different take on relationships compared to how the others are portrayed, but there's not much else in the way of gripping storytelling. I mean, I still enjoy it. I can't tell you how many VNs out there feel shallow or act as a way to push fetish bait without doing anything with the medium. Mice Tea makes strides to differentiate itself from the pack, but I wouldn't go as far as to say it's the greatest story put to Ren'Py. I'd say it's closer to a decent popcorn flick, or in this case, a popcorn VN, as the story doesn't find every excuse possible to try to have the characters do it at the drop of a hat. Well, they do, but it's not nearly as egregious as many others. Putting story aside, the team has gotten some new blood this year with the introduction of Heartgear, the new BG artist, and Will, the game's composer. Heart's backgrounds certainly spice up many of the plain environments of earlier builds a good couple of notches. All of them feel personalized and packed with details. As for the music, gone are many of the placeholder tracks of old. Will gives the game a unique sense of style with his pieces. The way Will works to compose these tracks are certainly more thoughtful than most projects I've seen around. Whenever a new track is introduced, there's usually a post on Patreon that gives some insight into what he wanted to portray with a certain song. He certainly seems like he's passionate about the project and making sure everything fits perfectly. Now, I'm sure for many, the fact that Mice Tea is still in early access would turn most people off. Right now, only 2 characters' stories are feature complete, but things have improved greatly over the past year. Every month, a new update is released for the game, whether that be more story or a new dump of finished assets, which is something that fits in line with how the game has been operating since the early days of its development. Its ability to deliver to its supporters on a timely and consistent basis. It's not some game trying to get fat off Patreon backers. There's actual work being done to improve things and to get MT ever so closer to a cromulent full release. I think that's very admirable. This is an example for many others developing these types of projects on how to deliver in a timely fashion. It's a small game that's handled things in a professional manner. So what is Mice Tea? It's a competently made VN that doesn't pull the usual tropes of cheap TNA. If you're looking for something different and good, then I'd say Mice Tea is definitely worthy of your time.